Well, all in all, I was happy with the town hall. I think that I came in, I came in with a different energy than I had come into the debates, or even the Fox News. I had a nervous energy with all of those that I did not have with this town hall. I was more calm, and maybe that was because I saw how she handled Brett Baer on Fox News. So maybe by virtue of the fact that in my mind, she handled herself on Fox News, I felt like she can certainly handle herself here on CNN. And it is a town hall, not a debate. So that there should be some guardrails into how contentious it could potentially be. And it never got contentious between Kamala Harris and the people asking the questions. I think there was a couple of times that Kamala looked at Anderson Cooper in a way that my mother has looked at me a few times in my teenage years, and certainly as an adult when I've gotten out of pocket. There's been a couple of times that I got the look, and I believe that Kamala Harris gave Anderson Cooper the look a couple of times. As far as he's concerned, I think he had to contend with not making it come off as a friendly town hall, like not trying to come off as promoting Kamala Harris and trying to have some moments of tension, because it wasn't going to come from the people in the audience, and it shouldn't have come from the people in the audience. But it ends up, for instance, when she was answering the very odd question that was asked about tax rates, and the woman not upset, but the woman questioning about whether or not her taxes will go up, and because of the way that the tax rates are already set up, where the rich people pay a higher rate of taxes. And Kamala correctly responded, well, the people at the very top are actually paying very little tax, and that is what we're trying to rectify. And she's like, oh, well, yes, I know that. But what you mean, well, yes, I know that? Like, what? Like, what are you talking? Like, you think the problem is you? Like, you think your money is what we missing? Like, you were gonna fix the deficit? Like, you think we were trying to get your money to fix the deficit? Like, I was very confused by that question. Very confused by that question. But Kamala told her that she's not who they're after. They're after trying to get the money from the people up at the very top of the pyramid. To which Anderson asked, because she mentioned something about $400,000, and Anderson said, "Oh, the people over $400,000 will have their tax rates raised," setting an exact amount and locking her into saying, "Yes, if you make this amount, your taxes will be raised," which of course is going to get aggregated, and that's something that the right wing and the Republicans will use. That is the kind of thing that an opponent in a debate would say. That is exactly the kind of comment, if Trump were there. Actually, who knows what he would say? He might be talking about people not paying their taxes, eating cats and dogs, trying to get trans operations. Who knows what he would say? But a competent opponent in a debate, that's what they would say. Oh, so anybody listening, you make 400,000. That's what they would say. You don't really want to come off as the moderator like an opponent in a debate. But I get that you also did not want to walk away from that with everybody saying that you just kowtowed to Kamala and let them get all their talking points out. But you really don't have much of an option when you have an opponent who refuses to appear. That is the danger that you run on the right wing when you decide that Donald Trump cannot be trusted, and is not adult enough in order to talk to anybody that's not overtly friendly. Not to mention the fact that the people who are going to accuse him of being a Democratic shield, we're going to do that no matter what happens. Reality does not compute with these. You talking about the Scott Jennings of the world. You think the Scott Jennings of the world needed a legitimate excuse to make a case one way or the other? So trying to please these people, I felt like was a fool's errand. I thought that it started well, which I'm not used to. We started the Biden debate. We started the Biden debate extremely shaky. You remember when the Biden debate started? I just sat here in silence. We started the Kamala debate shaky. If you remember the first couple minutes of the Kamala debate, I was like, ah! And then we started the Walls debate shaky. So the fact that we started strong, you know, I got to get comfortable while watching it, which made it very different. And Kamala has a different energy when she's flowing downhill. You know, we have a thing in sports, we call it running downhill, you know, where you get your momentum. You know, Derrick Henry runs downhill. Happy 1022, by the way. Whenever it's 1022, it's my birthday, 1022. So at 1022, I always like make a wish. I'm a child. She runs downhill. When she gets her energy going, that's when, you know, it's almost like Voltron. For all my sandwich generation people, which was the thing that came up, by the way, those of you that are like me, that are elder millennial or are a baby Gen X, we are the sandwich generation. That's what I learned. I said we are the youngest people who know how to use technology, and the oldest people who also don't know how to use technology. So that is my generation. My generation are the people that watched the movie Hook starring Robin Williams an estimated 500 times before the age of 16. That's my generation. Hook came out and they just decided whenever these kids got 2 free hours, we putting on Hook. I don't care if we on a bus. I don't care if we on a plane. I don't care if we on a church trip. I don't care if we on a field trip. We put on Hook. So those are my people. If you have seen Hook 10 or more times, those are my people. So we put on Hook. I might have to do my parents like that. I might have to do my kids like that. Just put on Hook. I'm like, why are we watching this random movie? I did it. Why did I bring that up? I'm talking about the sandwich generation. I forgot even why I even brought up the sandwich generation. Okay, maybe I have to come back around to it. We started really good. She has a great energy when she's falling downhill. Oh yeah, that's right. Because I was talking about Voltron. Like when she gets her energy going and she starts flowing downhill, it's like you formed a fully functional Voltron, right? That is, you saw it first, I think, with Bret Baier. Actually, no, we first saw it in the Senate. Although she doesn't have a whole long span of time in order to use all that momentum she's built up because of how short those windows are where they can ask questions. But we saw it with Bret Baier, because once she got tight with Bret Baier, it was a wrap. Like she wasn't playing from there on out, and she was just hitting it. She got there early, and so sustaining that over a long period of time was tough. So I think she had to pull it back a little bit at some point. But in general, I thought it was solid. I thought, especially the beginning, where all of her answers pivoted to Trump, pivot to Trump, pivot to Trump, pivot to Trump, showed the difference between the two candidates. And that is the risk you run on the Republican side when you see that we cannot trust this man to appear in public, is that he's not there to defend himself. And she very correctly presented a lot of things that apparently people ignore or are unaware of, like his blatant, rampant disrespect of the military, or some of the things he's mentioned about some of his fascist tendencies the John Kelly revelations that came out about him being envious of the German dictator. So I thought that was a solid way to go. One question that I had, though, because Anderson Cooper asked a good question in the beginning where he talked about all of the in any other world missteps and gaffes that Trump has had recently, but yet he continues to enjoy immense popularity. What do you make of that? And Kamala mentioned that, there's a lot of things that people may not have heard. These are things that people should be aware of. We follow these things regularly. Maybe people aren't as on top of, which is fair. And that's probably the way she has to answer that question. But me as a viewer, one of the things that I have repeatedly lamented as a progressive is how much worse at messaging the Democrats seem to be. That you have these huge contradictions that are so visible to me because I follow this, but yet aren't punitive for the right wing or Trump. Trump is the epitome of this with the degree of things that he's gotten away with, to the point that I've talked about doing a piece about how he gets to lose the election every week, because every week he gets to do something that would have lost any other candidate the election, and this week is no different. But this really precedes Trump. Also, it goes outside of Trump. About, you had back-to-back questions in this town hall about trying to support or encourage the people that are protesting on behalf of Palestine and curbing anti-Semitism, with a follow-up from Anderson Cooper about Donald Trump saying that he would be the most pro-Israel. Those were back-to-back. And rightfully so. Because you got undecideds out here holding against Kamala Harris Walls, the long-standing U.S. military association with Israel and their actions on behalf of Gaza, while at the same time, the right wing accusing them of being anti-Semitic. I can complain about that and just yell until the stars come home about how nonsensical that is. But if you are a progressive, if you are a Democrat, that's a problem. That's a problem. That is a problem, that your messaging is so far behind that both of those two things can gain traction at the same time. So that was just something that I had to acknowledge. And Sophie, you're right. Can somebody tell me what Pence accomplished as VP? That's an excellent question. That's an excellent question. While we're on the subject of Palestine, for instance, like that question, and I thought that she got some questions that took her to some vulnerable places, talking about the economy, talking about the border, talking about Israel-Palestine. They were asked in a way that allowed her to craft a competent response without direct pushback, other than from Anderson on occasion, which he did give. Here's the thing. I was extremely frustrated that she did not bring up Trump asserting he contemplates using the National Guard or even the military against the enemy within, radical left lunatics, he said on multiple occasions. Why she didn't bring that up at that moment? Because I need to understand and get into the thought process of the folks that are perfectly okay walking towards a future where a man can say things like that on the precipice of taking over the White House. And they're okay with that. I thought that should have been brought up right then. As far as the question about anti-Semitism, it led to a follow-up from Anderson Cooper asking about, Trump says that he is a defender of Israel and he is the most pro-Israel, and that led to a back and forth with Kamala about how much they're going to protect the Jews and versus what Trump has done. Look, Trump is the protector of women. He's the father of IVF. He is the best president for Black people since Abraham Lincoln. He is the most pro-Israel. Anything else I'll leave out? He's pro for the Latinos. Is there anything else? Is there any other group that he will use in order to stroke his own ego without anything substantive to actually back that up? And it frustrated me that Kamala got into that debate. Why are you getting into this debate about who's more pro? You already said with regards to the hurricane, and which was a great point, by the way, talking about the hurricane disaster relief while he was president and how he favored people and asking who they voted for and this, that, and the other thing. Absolutely great thing to re-rack. You should have brought it back. You should have brought it back, because there is not a group that he won't throw under the bus when it doesn't suit him or lift up so that he can gain something from them. That's all he's about. Him saying he's pro-Israel has nothing to do with anything other than him wanting to try and exploit a political situation and try and gain support from Jews. It's got nothing to do with anything other than that. And you need to continue to convey the point that this is how he operates. If you are a Jewish person, hearing him say he's pro-Israel should be meaningless, because that's how it should be. Him saying he's the most pro-Israel should be as meaningful as him saying he's the father of IVF. It should be as meaningful as him saying he's the best president for Black people since Abraham Lincoln. It should be that meaningful for you. And you need to shatter any illusion that he's pro anybody but Donald Trump. Destroy that illusion that he's pro anybody but Donald Trump. Stop getting into these debates. No, I'm not falling for that. I'm not falling for that. I did appreciate her energy. I appreciate grocery prices. That was another one where she had a really good spin on a potentially tough issue. She was talking about the grocery prices. I think that she talks about price gouging. She talked about it with grocery prices. She talked about it with price of medicine. And she talked about it a little bit when it came to housing. I think corporate greed, because you're also, we're talking about billionaires not paying their taxes. These corporations not paying no taxes either. Okay. I think corporate greed should be something that she embraces. Now, I understand that there could be some potential political fallout from that. However, I think now would be a good time to do that. I think now would be a good time to do that. And I think, I think now, in the same way that when she was asked, what was she asked about that she couldn't answer? Oh, Supreme Court. She got asked about packing the Supreme Court. And I don't know how she personally feels about packing the Supreme Court. I definitely know you can't say that you're in favor of that right now. I definitely know that. I think the opposite about the corporate greed thing. What you do, but I think it's a good thing to say. I think you've painted around, you've painted around the strike zone with corporate greed sufficiently enough. I think you just throw one down the plate. That's what I think. She alluded to there being no debate. I think she did that. I noticed she did that one time. I really wish she did that repeatedly. I really wish she just repeatedly hammered home the fact that this was supposed to be a debate. Just over and over and over again. This was supposed to be a debate. However you might feel about what I'm saying, whatever objection, whatever response you might have to what I'm saying, he's supposed to be giving right now, but he refused to show up. Just give it to me over and over. Just give it to me over and over, Kamala. That's what I needed. Now, the extent to which it will matter whether or not Trump didn't show up, it remains to be seen. We'll see. I mean, Trump could have showed up. Look, the calculus that they made was he was going to embarrass himself, and so it was going to be a bigger liability for him to show up. It might have been better. It might have been better for him not to show up. Based on that debate, there's a real legitimate case to be made for that. That's fair. It remains to be seen. All in all, I thought it was a good night from Kamala. How much it changed people's minds, I really don't know. I mean, I follow this stuff. This is what I do. So I don't really know the extent to which people that aren't regularly engaging in these conversations, I don't know how much they're aware of what Trump has said. I don't know how you're undecided at this point. I mean, really, like, I don't know. Like, Trump has been, we're going on 8 years, 9 years of Trump being center to our political discourse. I don't know how you're undecided at this point. I mean, maybe if this is your first election and you just kind of ignored it before that, maybe. And I guess some of the people asking questions were quite young, but that's really the only way I can see you being undecided. Yu Wu said undecided means I'm afraid to say it out loud. Yeah, that would be for undecideds just in life, like in the street. But like these people were undecided enough to qualify them to be in the audience or ask questions for the CNN town hall. It sounds like they're pretty doggone undecided. You know, it sounds like they're pretty doggone undecided. I very much look forward to seeing. Do I look forward? I was going to say I very much look forward to seeing the spin on the right wing. I probably don't. You know, see, I come from a world where if you forfeited the game because you didn't have enough healthy players and so you refused to show up, then you can't really complain about what the other team does during that time. I come from that world. Like, if your man was too big of a liability in order to stand across from this woman and have any sort of exchange, then you then forfeit any ability to have any legitimate critique of what's said. I come from that world, but y'all are different. I mean, y'all 2024 is different. I mean, really, it really is. There are a whole lot of things that people of my age and older, sandwich generation and older, there are a whole lot of things conventions that we grew up with that have just fallen by the wayside. So this whole idea of respect and dignity and all that just is not, that's just not a thing. That's just apparently not a thing. So I'm sure they will have a whole lot to say, completely ignoring the fact that their man's could not conduct himself in order to show up. So there's that. We hit 200,000 tonight. So shout out to all you guys for being a part of the 200,000. Shout out to all you guys that were at my birthday live yesterday. It was my birthday yesterday, and we did an AMA. A lot of you guys asked a bunch of fantastic questions for the AMA, and I'm very grateful to that. It's been a very, very busy week.